Hey y'all, have you ever had squash relish? I was out of town last week and I came back and there's all kinds of vegetables. As you can see back here, I have a lot of vegetables to use up and a lot of it is squash. I'm cutting up my squash to make some squash relish. I've never made it before, but I've had it before, so I'm gonna see how it works. My friend was wishing she had some squash relish, so I'm gonna surprise her. So the first thing you do is you cut up chop up 8 cups of squash. Then I've got to chop up 4 bell peppers, 2 green, 2 red, and 2 onions. And then I'm gonna add some salt to this, and I have to let it set for an hour. And then we'll continue on. But so the first part is the chopping process. I'm just getting all these squash cut up. It's taken about 10 squash, the yellow squash. You could probably use zucchini if you had it and you wanted to add some more color to it with the zucchini. You could do that too. So I'm just gonna keep on chopping up my squash and then get all these vegetables chopped up, and then we'll see what's happening next. Finally, my vegetables are chopped. And if you don't have a chopper or food processor or something to help you out with this, you're gonna wish you had one. There's a lot of chopping going on with 8 to 10 squash, 2 cups of onions, and 2 red bell peppers and 2 green bell peppers. Now we're going to add salt. There's a lot of salt on this, but that's what the recipe says. So it's 3 tablespoons of salt is going to be added here. Let me make sure that was right. Yes, 3 tablespoons of salt. So what you do is you put this salt on and mix it into your vegetables, and then we're going to pour it into a colander and let it set. It's your vegetables, especially these peppers, get some moisture in them, and so we're going to let the salt will bring out moisture too. So we're going to let the salt work on the vegetables while it sets in a colander for about an hour. And after an hour, then we'll continue on with the process, which is getting some vinegar and some spices together and letting it cook and getting your relish ready for jars. So I'm going to continue stirring till I get this mixed up real good, add it to my colander, and we'll be back in about an hour. If you're like me and you're looking for something else to do with your squash, this might be something for you. We're trying some squash relish. So to continue the process, let me show you what we do next. We cut up that squash, red bell pepper, green bell pepper, and onions, put some salt on it, and let it sit for 1 hour and drain. So now we're gonna add the vinegar pieces, and we're gonna let it cook for about 15 minutes. So first of all, you have sugar, and then you have vinegar, the white distilled vinegar. And then we're going to add 2 teaspoons of celery seed and 2 teaspoons of mustard seed. That's all you put in this. We're going to turn the eye on and stir everything together, and we're going to let this come to a boil. You let your vegetables cook for about 15 minutes, and then we're going to be putting it in jars. So while this is cooking, you can go get your jars, make sure they're washed and sterilized, get your lids and your rings, and get that all ready. So you can see, look how pretty it is. Our vegetables are very pretty, looking really good. It's going to smell kind of vinegary. So you might ask, what will I do with squash relish? Well, it's really good with pinto beans. Pinto beans and cornbread and a little squash relish on the side is really good. It's good on charcuterie boards. Just put it a little in a pretty bowl and let it be a dip. So there's a couple of things. It would be good on hot dogs. It's a great thing to put on your hot dog. So there's a few things you can do with this, and it's pretty easy to make, and it's a good use for that extra squash that you might have. So we're going to cook this about 15 minutes, and then we'll be back to put it into jars. Voila! Here's our relish, our squash relish. It's now time to put it into jars. Doesn't it look pretty? You just had to let this mixture come to a boil and boil for about 15 minutes, and that just softens your vegetables, cooks your vegetables, and gets them tender. So we're going to take a ladle, and I have jars. I'm putting these into some pint-sized jars, and I put a funnel on top so I won't be too messy with it. And I'm going to put as much veggies as I can down in there, and I'm going to fill it to the rim, I'll show you with another jar. I want to fill these to about right here. That's how high I'm going to put my relish in. If you wanted to use a smaller jar, you could. You'd get more. You get more jars that way. I'm going to try to make sure there is some liquid up to that rim also. So there's my first one. My first jar filled up. Oh, look how pretty. Doesn't that look good? I filled it to about the rim there. And after you fill it, you're going to have your lids that you're going to put on. And then you have a ring that we'll put on the jar. And tighten it pretty tight. I'm going to set it aside until I get all my jars filled. And then we're going to do a hot water bath. We're going to hot water bath these for 10 minutes. I'm going to do a whole video on a hot water bath. Mo and I we're not experts, but we have done a little bit of canning and cooking, and I think we can put together a pretty good little video for anybody who is unsure about hot water bath canning or pressure canning. Pressure canning is very different. This is just hot water bath. So we get a pot of water boiling, and you set your jars down in there, cook them for a few minutes, and it pressurizes the jar and takes the air out so that it's sealed, and it'll stay sealed for some time. And you can store these, and you can keep them a little bit longer in your cabinet when the air's out of them. After I hot water bath these, I'll put the date and what it is on top. I'll write it on here. And if I have it in the cabinet for several months, I won't forget what it is or when I made it. So I'm going to finish these up, fill them in jars, and then I'm going to hot water bath them, and I'll show you what they look like when we're finished.